Ready? Three, two, one. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the RGVSports.com football podcast. My name is Bryan Ramos,
I'm Ivan Palacios.
I'm Edward.
and here we are for another episode of the RGVSports.com football podcast, breaking down Texas high school football here in the Rio Grande Valley in the 956. And fellas, we just passed the midway point. Week six is in the rear view. Now we're in that final stretch, man. I mean, just a few more games before we're talking playoff ball and everything. So, just your thoughts on the season so far as we just crossed that midway point here of the 2025 season.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting to kind of get that district play rolling. I mean, 6A, a little bit of smaller districts, but now it's when it counts. I mean, you can be 1-4, 1-5, doesn't matter. This is where you want to win those games. And it's going to be interesting to see some of these teams that are 5-0 and can they keep rolling once they start playing that stiffer competition and teams that are maybe, struggling early on if they can pick up those district wins. But it's a different intensity once the district play starts. It's like a playoff, like it's one loss can, especially in those small district, one loss can mean the difference between getting into the postseason or you're finishing as a fifth seed. So just a lot more excitement. And, these games just not that the first ones didn't count, but these just hold a lot more weight now.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, we're getting to that time. We're getting to crunch time, man. You know what I mean? Everything counts now. So, but yeah, in week six, we had kind of light schedule, bunch of teams on their bye week, district-wide buys uh, across the valley last week for a few different districts. So we'll get into our week six recap in just a second. But before we do, I mean, guys, we got to start with the RGVSports.com 5A, 6A top 10 and our sub 5A top five football rankings entering week seven of the regular season. And fellas, I mean, as I said, with a bunch of teams on bye last week, teams one through six hold in the RGVSports.com 5A, 6A poll. And to run through them quickly, that is PSG North at number one, Los Fresnos at number two, Brownsville Veterans number three, Mercedes Tigers number four, Edinburgh Vela at number five, and Mission Veterans at number six. And then we had a little bit of movement at team seven through 10. And Edinburgh High Bobcats move up one spot to number seven. Edinburgh Economides up one spot to number eight. McAllen High Bulldogs up one spot to number nine. And the McAllen Memorial Bulldogs make their re entry to the RGVSports.com top 10. I know they started the season there and were there early on, then had a couple close losses against Westaco, lost on the road against San Antonio Johnson. So McAllen High and McAllen Memorial round out the RGVSports.com 5A, 6A top 10 teams here entering week seven. And then, fellas, teams kind of stay the same at the top of the sub 5A top five poll. Got Raymondville, Rio Hondo, and Lyford claiming spots one, two, and three. Then La Villa up one spot after their big win over Santa Maria this past week. And then Edward making their re-entry into the sub 5A top five. We got Brownsville St. Joseph, the Bloodhounds coming in at number five after a big win. And I mean, kind of a segue. You can kind of touch on both here in this one segment. They also have the RGVSports.com Offensive Player of the Week.
Yeah, St. Joe's comes back in. They played a really tough schedule. They beat Carroll, but they played Economides. They just lost to Austin Regents before. And that's a really good TAPS team in the whole state. So it was kind of a game that would be like, okay, whoever wins is gonna. If Lafayette wins, they're gonna stay in the top five. If Brownsville St. Joseph wins, and it's only makes sense to replace them, right? So yeah, I mean, really good game out there in Brownsville. Gavin Cisneros killed it, 350 rushing yards, 70 passing yards, opening kickoff return, and he's our RGVSports.com Player of the Week. Uh, what an amazing game from him. They had some other good players that played well too, but Cisneros, balled out this week, and deservedly so. Is our RGVSports.com Player of the Week offensively, right? Offensive Player of the Week.
And defensively, Ivan, we had another dude bring home RGVSports.com Defensive Player of the Week honors. Why don't you introduce us to our Week 6 Defensive Player of the Week?
Yeah, this is a guy who's been playing hard all season long. That's linebacker Juan Sanchez from Los Fresnos, and just a standout performance there against Sherilyn High. We know Sherilyn High's offense is explosive, but the Falcons were able to hold him to 20 points, and a big reason was Juan Sanchez there in the middle. He came up with 13 total tackles, an interception that he took back 12 yards for a defensive touchdown. So just a dominant effort by Juan. I mean, that pick six was pretty impressive. He kind of got the ball thrown to him, went off his fingertips at first, but then he came back down with it and just kind of rumbled his way to the end zone there. And like I said, just a big year overall for this guy. He's up to 50 tackles, 4.5 tackles for loss, 1.5 sacks, and 1 interception. That's playing middle linebacker too. So I mean, just great effort in that game, and just it's a strong way for him to finish that non-district play as they prepare to get a little bit tougher here when 32-6 play starting up.
Yeah, shout out to the RGVSports.com offensive and defensive players of the week here in week 6. Bronzo St. Joseph, quarterback. I mean, hey, we could probably call him an athlete if you're returning kicks, right? Uh, Gavin Cisneros, quarterback slash athlete, and then Los Fresnos linebacker Juan Sanchez. Shout out to them for balling out. And as always, man, who's got next? You know what I mean? Week 7's here. We got a full schedule. Most of the teams in action. So we'll see who brings home week 7 honors now that most teams are into district play. So, yeah, guys, to keep things rolling, we'll dive into our week 6 recap. Light schedule across the board with a bunch of non-district games, a few district games here and there. But I mean, for the most part, it was a light week 6. And as always, we'll kick off our week 6 recap with a look at the RGVSports.com game of the week. Ivan, it was a top 10 matchup at the time. What can you tell us about the week 6 RGVSports.com game of the week?
Early on, it looked like it was going to be a close one. After one quarter, we were tied, or not tied. Los Fresnos was only up 14-7, but then things just collapsed for Sherilyn High, and Los Fresnos took over in that second quarter. They outscored the Rattlers 35-7 in that second quarter to take a 49-14 lead into the break, and it was all Los Fresnos from there. Most starters were pulled by the second half by both teams. Los Fresnos went to backup quarterback Evan McChesney, and Calvin Harris left the game for the Rattlers. I think they were just trying to, a little precaution there. There's no point in risking it when you're down that much, and you got district play coming up. But just a dominant performance by the Falcons. I mean, Robert Pineda over 200 yards passing and 3 touchdowns, first time over 200 this year, and he also had 41 yards on the ground. And talk about sophomore receiver Enrique Guerra. I mean, just 2 catches, 129 yards, and 2 touchdowns. One of them was on a screen pass on 3rd and 21. Dude just made the defenders miss and took it off down the sideline for a score. And defensively, I mean, we've already talked about Juan Sanchez, but some other guys made big plays. I mean, JC Fuentes, 10 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. And you had Ryan Prepperjaw, 1 interception there. And also Ismael Moreno, he had a pick, almost took it to the house too. And he also took the opening kickoff back for a touchdown. So, the Falcons got it done in every way. They scored on special teams, they scored on defense. Their offense put up points. Even after Robert left the game and they went to their backups, they still added 2 more touchdowns there in the fourth quarter. So just overall impressive effort by these Falcons. There's a reason why they've been number 2 all year, and we've seen them win in different ways. We saw them win close a couple weeks ago against Edinburgh, and then now this is their second big win in as many weeks. They put up 60 on PSJ High earlier this year, and now another 60 burger here for the Falcons. So shout out the Falcons and an impressive win there in the RGV Sports Game of the Week.
Yeah, and to keep things rolling with our week 6 recap, like I said, a few district games going on last week. One of them took us to District 15 5A D1. The PSG North Raiders, the number 1 ranked team here from the preseason till now, picks up a 48-35 win over Harlingen South. And fellas, I mean, just to put it lightly, I mean, these teams do not like each other. The players do not like each other. It was a physical ball game for 48 minutes. And Harlingen South gave PSG North everything they can handle, man. I mean, PSG North is a good squad. It was 28-21 at one point in the third quarter, but PSG North able to pull away, extend their lead to 42-21, a three touchdown game. Eventually, Harlingen South makes it a 48-35 final. But I mean, fellas, running back Ethan Guerra, man, his first touch of the game, 70-yard touchdown. Second touch of the game, 89-yard touchdown. He finishes the game 326 yards, 4 touchdowns on 26 carries. He's a dude, man. And this was only his 5th game of the year. Sends him over the 1,000-yard mark in just 5 games, so averaging over 2,000 yards. 200 yards a game. in 5 games this season. Already over 20 touchdowns. So Ethan Guerra continues balling out. Quarterback Darren Garcia throws 2 touchdown passes to sophomore receiver Isaiah Garza, and then defensively, linebacker Ethan Montemayor had an all-out game, man. 16 tackles, 4 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, and a pick there against Harlingen South. And Harlingen South, man, they balled out, man. We'll get into a little bit into our week 7 preview. But I was really impressed with what this Harlingen South team did and how they were able to play and move the ball against a good PSG North team. Austin Schroyer has 220 passing yards, 121 rushing yards, 3 interceptions on the night. So that's kind of how PSG North was able to build that lead and make it a 3-score game. But I mean, Austin Schroyer did a good job moving the ball. His top target, Ezzy Cortez, 9 receptions, 114 yards, and then running back Caden Edwards. He was kind of the finisher once they got into the red zone. 12 carries, 44 yards, 4 rushing touchdowns for Caden Edwards, the younger brother of last year's running back Alvin Edwards. So, yeah, I mean, this is an impressive game for PSG North. Second physical game in a row after they played Corpus Christi Veterans the week prior, and Harlingen South made sure it was a physical game, man, and it was physical on both sides. Both these teams looked really good, and I came away impressed with what I saw from both sides. So I know Coach Kaufman and PSG North, they weren't satisfied with their performance. 35 points is the most points they've given up in any game this year. So they're determined to get back at it, get back in the lab, and keep things rolling as they chase another district title there in 15-5A D1. And then Edward, man, you had a pretty good game between a team that had been surging recently, and then of course a team that's kind of put themselves back in that conversation as one of the top teams here in the Rio Grande Valley.
Yeah, I got to see Mission Vets and Brownsville Hannah Thursday. Mission Vets won 42-19. Yeah, Roman Reina, only a sophomore, he's really good. He had 3 picks on the game, threw for 300 yards, but some of those picks weren't that bad. Situational, punt pass, 3rd and long, Hail Mary attempt before the half. But he looks really good at extending those plays, and those are the type of situations that Coach Gilpin said after the game that they really want to put all their quarterbacks in. And even in the past, that's what they like to read, that defensive end, that outside linebacker. And, if the quarterback can make that guy miss, then, and, those wide receivers can make something happen, get open. And, I mean, it's going to be a long day for defenses. And at times it was a long day for Hannah. Like I said, they did get 3 picks, but Mission Veterans was just a little too much for them at the end of the day. They had their quarterback, their quarterback issue, situation. They had a new quarterback this year, and or they had like an quarterback injury. So Renteria, the quarterback, pretty solid, really fast. He was able to score a long touchdown, but it's just a little too much Patriots. Even defensively, they had 3 picks on Brownsville Hannah, 2 returned for touchdowns. Quentin Valverde returned 1 for 100 yards. JJ Garza had 1 for 40 yards. So all around good performance by Mission Veterans. And, they weren't ranked in our top 10, right, to begin the season. And they've clawed their way in there. And I think they could keep going further, if they sweep this district. And it should be a good game. Like you said, Sherryland smartly rested their quarterback for this upcoming game. We're going to talk about, Sherryland, Mission Vets, that should be a really good game.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's Mission. It's some good quarterback play going on there in 15-5 AD2, especially when you got William Goodlow there at Sherryland Pioneer. Ivan, that's somebody who you saw in action on Thursday. Pioneer, Diamondbacks, Brownsville Veterans, Chargers going at it. Why don't you run us through that game and how that one turned out?
Yeah, just another dominant victory there by the Chargers, who improved to 6-0 on the year, and they seem on a collision course with that Los Fresnos team for that District 32 6A title. And Chargers come away with the win here, 46-21, but it wasn't without a fight. William Goodlow definitely gave him some headaches. I mean, he threw for 119 yards and 3 touchdowns, rushed for 81 yards, and even had a catch for 9 yards. And we know what he can do. There's a reason he was ranked in our top 30 players. The kid's just an athlete. You put the ball in his hands, but I mean, it was just too much Chargers on the other end. I mean, we've talked about him before, but Calvin Trevelyan just electric. 10 carries, 217 yards, and three touchdowns. That's 21 yards a carry. That's he's averaging close to 17 yards a carry this season. I mean, the kid's been an automatic first down for this team, and the Lions have Sonic and Knuckles. The Chargers have their own version, and Trevelyan then Cesar Belmontes, 10 carries, 62 yards, and one touchdown. That's in about a quarter and a half of play. He left the game with an injury. Coach JC didn't think it was anything serious. He expects him to be back this week, just kind of took a precaution and rested him. But I think I was impressed with the depth, too, because Belmontes goes out and they keep moving the ball. Manny Escobedo steps in, 13 carries, 86 yard. Quarterback Jake Signs, 41 yards and a touchdown on 9 carries. And I mean, 436 yards and five touchdowns on the ground for this Chargers team. And I mean, just an all around effort by this team that, we predicted them to be good this year. They've been in our top five, I think, all season long. And a big thing was, who was going to step up on offense. And Belmontes and Trevelyan have done that since the absence of, Storm Montoya, who's now at Eastern New Mexico. But just an all around dominant performance by this Chargers team. And we're in for a good one in a couple of weeks, I think. Los Fresnos and Brownsville Vets play here in, I think, about 2 weeks or so, or 2, 3 weeks. And that one could be for the district title. Last year's was a good close matchup. Los Fresnos came back and stunned Chargers there. And we'll see how this one plays out this year, man. But just setting up to be a dynamic finish there in 32-6A.
Yeah, that one should be fun. Definitely got it's a few weeks away, but got our eyes on that one already, man. It's going to be a heavyweight matchup. And to quickly run through some other games, Edward touched on Brownsville St. Joseph's big win uh, over La Feria. And Edward, anything else you want to touch on there, or?
Yeah, I mean, the some of those plays that Gavin had running the ball, we've talked on some of those other big plays, but 80-yard touchdown, 50-yard rushing touchdown. They have another running back coming up, sophomore Mauricio Vega, that had 190 rushing yards. He looked really good between the tackles, especially. And if he could bounce it outside or find that space, like he could finish runs. La Feria looked good too, though. They battled in that game. Jaden Martinez, the guy that we talked about. Lefty, yeah, he had a really good second half, especially threw some really good balls out there that were taken for big plays. But just St. Joe's got on a really good start. They were up like 30 something to 6 or 30 something. They were up like at least 34 scores. Before halftime, and they were able to outpace La Feria because of it.
Yeah, I mean, shoot, man, performance like that. I mean, shoot, those are crazy numbers. Those are not just RGVSports.com player of the week. Those are Mr. Texas Football. You know what I mean? Built for tough player of the week numbers, man. So shout out to Gavin and at St. Joseph for pulling out a big win there. And to quickly touch on a couple other games here in week 6, PSG Memorial picks up a 20-6 win over Brownsville Rivera. Fellas, I think we all picked Brownsville Rivera on this one. Bit of a shocker. Wolverines and first-year head coach Omar Gonzalez on leading the Wolverines to victory. That's his for the first victory of his head coaching career. So shout out to PSG Memorial getting that done, getting in the win column with a big win over Brownsville Rivera. And then kind of touched on it earlier, but La Villa and Santa Maria, it's not always you see two teams play twice in the regular season. These guys do it. La Villa won the first matchup 50-45. And they win the second matchup here due to a cancellation, one team canceling its season. So La Villa and Santa Maria lock horns again. La Villa picks up a 42-26 win over Santa Maria. But hey, man, Santa Maria, they balled out, man. Daniel Martinez, 217 rushing yards, 3 rushing touchdowns. And then La Villa, Andrew Gonzalez and Isaiah Felix combined for 264 rushing yards, 4 TDs to lead the Cardinals to a victory over Santa Maria there in week 6. So, fellas, that wraps up our week 6 recap. Now we look ahead and turn the page to week 7. And as always, we kick off our week 7 preview with the RGVSports.com game of the week. And fellas, we got a bunch of rivalry games going on here in week 7. A bunch of them I think are, game of the week caliber, but we got our game of the week here at RGVSports.com takes us to a top 10 matchup between the number 9 McAllen High Bulldogs and number 10 McAllen Memorial Mustangs. So crosstown rivals, district title contenders there in 16 5A D1 on the Lockhorns Friday night, 7:30 p.m. Friday at McAllen Veterans Memorial Stadium in McAllen. So this one should be a good matchup. Last year, Memorial won 32-29. Able to prevent the go-ahead field goal, an interception, kind of ended Mackay's the drive. The what would be the game time field goal ended on an interception by the McAllen Memorial defense. So this year, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. We got playmakers on both sides of the ball for both teams. Kane Coy, 594 passing yards, 8 touchdowns, 293 rushing yards, 4 rushing touchdowns. Running back Braxton Spates has led the Mustangs rushing game. We know how good their ground game is. 721 yards, 4 touchdowns, and then big play receiver Michael Alanis, 11 catches, 314 yards, 5 tutties, and then defensively safety Nehemiah Adebawale and linebacker Dalton Keller lead the Memorial defense with over 30 tackles apiece. And then over on the other side of it, man, I mean, the Bulldogs got some playmakers as well, man. We've seen McCoy Wolthoff light it up this year. Over 1,000 passing yards, 11 passing touchdowns, has over 100 rushing yards and a couple rushing TDs. Hunter Morley, 391 rushing yards, 4 touchdowns, and then a big play Finn Henderson, man. They got another big player, big time receiver on that side. Finn Henderson, he's a cousin of former Mackay receiver and UTRGV receivers coach Gunnar Henderson. So that's the relation there. And they both balled out when they were receivers at Mackay. Finn's doing the same, just as Gunnar did in his heyday. So 23 receptions, 432 yards, 9 touchdowns for Finn Henderson, and then Oliver Shorts, the linebacker extraordinaire, man. He's just a fierce ball player. You know what I mean? And you can feel the intensity and the way he plays. All you got to do is look for the ball, and you'll find him because he's always around it as Mackay's leading tackler. So that one should be a fun one. 7:30 p.m. Friday at McAllen Veterans Memorial Stadium, fellas. And that's just one of the few good games that we have on the Week 7 slate. Why don't we start up with those 6A matchups, man? We've got some heavyweight matchups going on, district openers. Ivan, what do you got for us?
I mean, it starts off on Thursday in 31 6A with a potential, it could be a big in district title implications and playoff implications. You got La Jolla High traveling to Bobby Lackey Stadium to take on the Weslaco High Panthers. That's this Thursday, 7 p.m. Both teams come in 3-2, and they're both led by some of the more dynamic players in the Valley. La Jolla's got running back Mauricio Mendoza. He's got 925 yards and averaging 10.1 yards a carry this season with 11 touchdowns. He's about to pass his season total from last year. He had just over 1,200 yards, and midway point, he's already at 900. And it's going to it's going to be interesting to see how that Weslaco defense stacks up against a running back of his caliber. But on the other side, Weslaco's got quarterback Chris Luna. We knew him last year as a receiver in DB. He's transitioned to quarterback. I mean, 692 passing yard while completing 70% of his passes, 11 passing touchdowns and just 2 interceptions. And he's also rushed for 400 yards and leads the team in rushing as well. So just a dynamic athlete that's difficult to stop. And when you got receivers like Joseph Leal as well, and other guys like D'Angelo Gonzalez there, it's just an explosive offense there. It's going to make for an interesting one there. And, we're not used to talking La Jolla as a district title dark horse or a contender or anything like that, but I think it should be interesting here. They're both 3-2, like I said, and they both have the weapons. So it could make for a big one regarding playoff implications and district title implications there. And both teams want to start that district season with a win.
And Edward, man, you got a couple big time rivalries there at the 5A D2 level. Which one you want to lead off with, man? I mean, both of them are heavy hitters.
Yeah, a bunch of good, important games in general, just in those districts. There's not as many games, right? It's like the 6A districts, right? We're already kind of deep into the 5A D1, conversations, right? So PSA Southwest and Brownsville Lopez. I mean, if you win that game, each team, like you're kind of almost in the playoffs, right? Your foot's in the door. So a huge game out there Thursday in Brownsville. And then Cherryland High versus Mission Vets, two of the most explosive or more explosive offenses going at it. That's like an early district title, potential matchup like that. They can go 1-2. Then Pioneer has to go to Alice. That's not an easy trip. Pioneer has had some injury problems, right? And even Cherryland High, right? But it's important to get that win in Alice, especially with how we don't really see Alice that much, right? Or like the news doesn't always trickle down. You got to go find them, but they've been like they haven't been as good as they were in previous years. They lost their quarterback, like we've talked about, to Flower Bluff transfer. I mean, I wouldn't say lost, right? But Pace and Porter, another big game in in uh in that district. If Porter wants to make the playoffs, they got to beat Pace, and they got to beat PSA Southwest first and foremost. So that's like and Pace, they got to beat Porter and PSA Southwest, to make the playoffs also. So big game there. At Cal Chelsea and Mercedes is probably one of the bigger ones too. The Yellow Jackets beat them last year, so and swept that district. So, but Mercedes, we know, is one of our best teams. They played similar teams, Mercedes and like Edinburgh High, right? But Mercedes was able to beat Edinburgh High, and Edinburgh High beat Cal Chelsea handily. So if you're going off of those things, you probably put Cal as an underdog, but it's a rivalry, right? So anything can happen. But a lot of big games out there in 5A, D2, and then to go to sub 5A, right? To boom, we're back into sub 5A. Raymondville, Lyford, Cotton Bowl, Trayshawn Washington has been one of the more surprising players. We know that Raymondville got a transfer running back, but we didn't know too much about him. And he's been one of the best players in the Valley this year. Almost 1,200 rushing yards in just 5 games. I mean, he's probably going to hit 2,000 easily. So that's an incredible accomplishment. So Lyford's defense versus Raymondville's offense. Raymondville is one of the best offensive lines too. Lyford has some good players. Aiden Rubalcaba is their leading tackler. It should be a really good game. And then another one of our sub 5A teams that's they've been hanging around our top 5, Santa Rosa. They have a really big game against Hebronville. Hebronville and Santa Rosa both have beaten Benketti, but Santa Rosa did a little bit better. Riley Fonseca is having a really good season over there as their quarterback. Almost 500 passing yards, 500 rushing yards. So a lot of great games, a lot of good games at all levels in the Valley this week.
Big games going on across the Rio Grande Valley, and it continues here in week 7. Ivan, we jump back up to the 6A level for another big time matchup between, two tradition-rich programs, man. What can you tell us about what's going down in District 32, 6A?
On paper, this doesn't look like a big matchup. Harlingen enters this one 1-5. On the other hand, you got Brownsville Vets 6-0. But Harlingen's starting to come together a little these last 3 weeks. They could very easily be 3-3. They took Mission Vets down to the wire. They were up 2 touchdowns late, and their defense unfortunately gave away 2 touchdowns. And even last week against Cuero, they clawed their way back from being down almost 3 touchdowns and made it 35-27 late. They just couldn't get a stop late, but it could make for an interesting one. Now that district's in play, you're starting to get healthy there too. Running back Noah Huerta's really come on strong these last couple of weeks. He's got 158 yards in that win against United South, 175 against Mission Vets, and then 142 against Cuero. That's 7 touchdowns too during those last 3 weeks. And even quarterback Hassan Woolery is starting to get it done on the ground. He had over 100 yards, almost 200 yards on the ground this last week against Cuero, and then he had 100 against United South in that win. And it's going to be interesting to see if Harlingen can give Brownsville Vets a little bit of a scare there. You got nothing to lose at this point. You're 1-4, you're 1-5 on the year. Sometimes it's like you say, you're playing with house money there. So you go in and people are expecting you to lose, and how do you kind of respond to that? And you just leave it all out there now. You're starting to get healthy. You've looked you looked okay these past couple weeks. Now can you put together a full complete game as district play keeps going? But it won't be easy. On the other side of the ball, you got Brownsville Vets. We've talked about them already. they're loaded on both sides of the ball. Tyson Rios ranks number 2 in the Valley, or number 2 or 3 in the Valley in interceptions. He's got 4. Daniel Selvetta, I mean, 3 sacks, almost 60 tackles on the year. They got a solid defense. And the guys on offense we've already talked about. Cesar Belmontes, Jake Sines, Calvin Trevelyan. The Cardinals won't have they'll have their hands full on both sides of the ball, but I think it could be more interesting than people expect it to be.
Yeah, that's definitely a game to watch here coming up in week 7. Big time matchup to kick off district play there in 32-6A. And then to run through a couple of other games, notable games quickly. Thursday night, Rio Grande City at McAllen Rowe. Rowe still unbeaten in district. They're 2-0 under first year head coach Jamar Taylor. Rio Grande City, they're looking for their first win, but they've been competitive in games under head coach Abel Gonzalez. And we've seen quarterback DeAndre Rodriguez do some good things. He's a playmaker there at quarterback for the Rattlers. To keep things moving, we got Brownsville Rivera and Westaco East. This one. I mean, it's a question mark. Who's going to be that fourth playoff team in 15-5 D1? If it's going to be either of these guys, they got to get started here, like as they take on in this matchup between the Rivera Raiders and Westaco East Wildcats. And then Corpus Christi Veterans will be coming down to the Valley to take on Harlingen South Friday, 7 p.m. at Bogus Stadium. And fellas, if this Harlingen South team can play the way they played against PSG North, against Corpus Christi Veterans on Friday, this Harlingen South team can win this game. I was very impressed with them. So, if like Harlingen South was the 4th seed a year ago, if they want to make their case and pick up a big win to really put things in their favor and increase their odds there to repeat as the 4th seed, this one would help them out and essentially knock Corpus Christi Veterans out of that district title running there with a potential second district loss. Then Mission High and La Jolla Palmview 16-5 D1. This game 7:30 p.m. Friday at La Jolla ISD Pack Stadium. And fellas, I mean, the top 4 teams in this district are Edinburgh Vella, McAllen High, McAllen Memorial, McAllen Rowe, in whatever or in an order to be determined. So if Mission High and La Jolla Palmview want to make their case for a playoff spot and to get in that playoff picture, they're going to have to take care of business, and it starts this week against each other, 7:30 p.m. Friday at La Jolla ISD Stadium. So just another big game to watch here. In week 7, it's an action-packed week. We'll be bringing you coverage of it all at rgvsports.com. You can find everything on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at rgvsports.com. And then, Ivan, why don't you tell the people where they can find the latest and greatest stats here in the Rio Grande Valley?
I mean, you said it best, man. We have everything. District standings. Now that district's heating up, you really want to see where your team stacks up. And then all your stats, passing, rushing, receiving, scoring, tackles, interception, even special teams, man. We got it on. That's at football.rgvsports.com. You can also get through it by going through rgvsports.com and clicking on that football tab. But we got it all for you. We want to make sure we bring you all the best of the best. So we track down as much as we can. And if you don't see your stats, like we've said before, have your coach hit us up, send us your stats. We'll get you up there, man, and you will fix everything. But at the end of the day, man, we got it all here, from standings, highlights, post-game interviews, stories. We got it all here at RGV Sports.
Yep. As Ivan said, man, find us on all platforms. We're everywhere, bringing you the most in-depth coverage of high school football here in the Rio Grande Valley in the 2025 season. Fellas, week 6, we're over that hump. We're past the midway point, entering the final stretch. I'm looking forward to it. So with that said, thank you guys for joining us for another episode of the RGVsports.com football podcast. We'll catch you next time.